Welcome to my world where all is well. I'm the thinker who thinks the thoughts that create the things. I'm also the proud Queen Chief of 3 Kings. Today I'm starting a brand new book called Worthy by Jada Pinkett Smith. And since it's the first time reading this book and my first chance at this book, I always like to read to y'all exactly what the front sleeve, back sleeve say. And the preamble, I like to read everything before I get to to the first chapter. Then I start just giving you, once I get into the chapters, that's when I start just giving you a synopsis of my version of what it means to me. But I like to start off each book with that you know exactly what the author wants you to know about the book. Worthy, Jada Pinkett Smith. I'm looking so forward to reading it. Thank you, baby mama. She knows I like to read books, so she purchased it for me. Okay, Worthy. You know your worth. Who do you think deserves love? Who gets to feel cared for? Who is allowed grace for their mistakes? Who is given a pass in times of struggle? Who can defy the status quo to embrace their authenticity? Is it ever you? Do you consider yourself worthy of self-love? Many of us do not, and women, as the caretakers and the peacekeepers, are particularly skilled at putting others in front of ourselves, pushing our energies outward and leaving our needs unmet and our own dreams unheard. Jada Pinkett Smith knows this reality intimately. While the world crafted one narrative about her highly misunderstood marriage to one of the biggest movie stars in the world, her unconventional approach to parenting her children, her relationship with rapper Tupac Shakur, a narrative riddled with assumptions, Jada lived another story. In Worthy, her honest, at times painful, ultimately inspiring memoir, Jada Pinkett Smith chronicles lessons learned during a roller coaster ride from the depths of suicidal depression to the heights of rediscovery and a celebration of authentic female power. Opening in 1980s Baltimore, Worthy chronicles how Jada went from the little girl of 2 addicts to a promising theater student with a violent interlude as a petty drug dealer. Her move to Los Angeles and parallel rise to stardom alongside her close friend Tupac, her passionate romance and complicated marriage to Will Smith, and her joyful embrace of motherhood. But as with so many women, Jada found herself in crisis, having suppressed her needs for too long, losing her identity, her agency, her power, even her hair in the process. At her lowest point, in the midst of a little-known marital separation and spinning out of control, she had to consider rebuilding her life alone. Faced with excruciating choices between love and loss, living and dying, Jada chose to redefine her life in every way and set out on a spiritual path that required ultimate surrender. At the heart of this powerful book are 2 love stories, one being Jada's own journey to self-love, and the other her unconditional love and acceptance for all who have been part of her story. Worthy reveals to us who Jada is and who we can be when we are willing to let go. Do the hard work of defining our worth in our own terms. Trust and love. Embrace the journey and believe you are worthy. Jada Pinkett Smith is an actor, singer, songwriter, talk show host, producer, and businesswoman who has appeared in more than 20 films. She is the co-creator and co-host of Red Table Talk, for which she has received a Daytime Emmy Award. In 2021, Time magazine named her one of the 100 most influential people. Jada is married to actor Will Smith, with whom she shares 3 children. Together, they founded the Will and Jada Smith Family Foundation, a charity organization that focuses on inner-city youth and family support. The couple owns Westbrook Incorporated, a media company that aims to empower artists to tell their stories and connect with the world. You can also go to her websites, ourworthyjourney.com and Jada Pinkett Smith. She's on Twitter at Jada P. Smith, on Instagram at Jada Pinkett Smith, and on TikTok at Jada Pinkett Smith. A queen is her own savior. Her magic is quiet, potent, and mysterious. I totally agree. Okay, so Jada Pinkett Smith, Worthy. This is what the inside cover looks like. Okay, and it says, off this note, In recounting my journey, I have included scenes and conversations and descriptions of encounters with others that are not intended to be word-for-word reenactments, though I have attempted to the best of my abilities to recall those moments in the spirit in which they took place. In certain instances, I have changed the names of individuals to respect their privacy. To all who played meaningful roles in my life, I am forever grateful, and I hope to have remembered and researched names, spellings, and details faithfully. I want to emphasize that I am not an expert trained in any form of therapy. My takeaways shared on these pages come from personal experiences and learning lessons along the way. For anyone who may wish to know more about the properties of plant medicine, please do so by contacting and working with a trained facilitator. Do not try this work by yourself or in any recreational setting. Finally, I want to say to anyone struggling with any mental health concerns, please know you are not alone and don't hesitate to reach out for help. For resources, please visit www.ourworthyjourney.com. To my daughter and your daughters too. To my sons and your sons as well. Okay? And this gives you the prologue, the book indents with the chapters, the contents. So I'm going to read the prologue. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Prologue. The Heroine's Journey. OJ, California. OJAI. I perceive that to be OJ, California. January 2012. I pulled off the curving mountain road onto what turns out to be the top of a steep drive leading down to the house of the medicine woman, whom I just met on the phone only a couple of weeks earlier. I'm sitting and staring down the driveway between a thick overhang of foliage on a beautiful clear night that should feel magical but instead feels full of dread. I take a couple of deep breaths, trying to calm myself. I feel crazy. My mind, which was so focused on getting me here, is now suddenly betraying me, leaving me to feel vulnerable in ways that I hate. In this moment, I'm pounded by the same terrifying feelings I felt in past experiences when I put myself in situations that is a miracle I lived to tell. The scariest aspect of those incidents was that whether I lived or died was in someone else's hands, and that lack of control may explain how I'm feeling here, in my car at the top of this driveway. As I try to get my bearings, I want to be grateful for this opportunity, but a feeling of helplessness floods me. All I can think to do is pray with all my heart, as sincerely as possible. My hands pressed together. I try desperately to steady my mind. Don't be afraid, I tell myself. You are in peaceful, beautiful OJ. Why are you so scared? Because, I answered, what if this actually kills me? 3 months earlier, in the wake of my 40th birthday, my biggest worry was, well, what if it doesn't? For 2 decades, I had been putting on a good face, going with the flow, telling everyone I was okay. Yet underneath, bouts of depression and overwhelming hopelessness had smoldered until they turned into raging hellfire in my broken heart. Unwelcome feelings of not deserving love made it harder to understand the disconnect between the so-called perfect life I had achieved and the well of loss I carried with me. Therapy helped up to a point. It got me to 40, but to what end? I would later be diagnosed and informed that I suffer from complex trauma with PTSD and dissociation. But without this guidepost, I was a chronic mess with no fix, no possibility to heal. Every morning, waking up was like walking the plank of doom. Could I make it up to 4 p.m.? If I could, I had survived the day. I always wanted to sleep, but I never slept well. My children could put a smile on my face and were my only motivation to keep me going. But more and more, I could feel myself losing my grip of connection to them. With all of this, I was slammed by the reality that I had been checking off boxes meant to define being enough to deserve having it all. What that meant to me was that I would be enough to be loved in a way that life didn't hurt anymore. Those boxes I had been checking had not delivered the gifts that had been promised. I followed the rules. The rules were told to follow. You work hard. Make sacrifices for those you love. The rules tell you, be a doting mother and a doting wife. Do the work required, and life turns into paradise. Nope. A loving relationship, harmony, peace, happiness had yet to be delivered. On paper, it all looked grand. I had the beautiful family, the superstar husband, the lavish lifestyle, fame and fortune. I had my own career, the freedom and support to pursue creative outlets. The sweetest part was my kids, Jaden, Willow, and my bonus son, Trey, my 3 favorite people in the world. They were, hands down, the best thing that ever happened to me. Yet none of that prevented me from hitting the wall I was speeding toward at 100 miles per hour, knowing full well this shit gonna blow. I had sought help everywhere you can imagine. From goddess gatherings, silent yoga retreats, backpacking alone, studying every religion you could think of, you name it. I even went to Cuba and met with it. None of it offered a lasting solution, adding to my distress. Will and I weren't in a good place and hadn't been for a while. I couldn't make it right no matter how hard I tried. We couldn't hear or see each other at all. Confiding in my close friends seemed unfair to them and to Will and me. And so by Thanksgiving, I'd fallen into despair and wanted to be on this earth less and less. This was not living. Suicidal thoughts were not completely new to me. What was new, I'd begun to think about how to have a fatal accident that wouldn't look intentional for the sake of my kids. If I remained the way I was, what good would I be to them anyway? Besides, I told myself, they would be okay. They would have their father, a devoted and great dad. Their being okay, in my mind, depending on me doing a good job of making my death appear to be conclusively accidental. As grim as it may sound, the world had become less heavy now that I had a solution, a plan for my own exit, and I was resolved. A sober stillness took hold, driving around a turn on Mulholland Drive a few times. I settled on a specific cliff that might work. I'd have to summon the courage to drive fast over the side, probably at night. Fatal car accidents happen all the time on Mulholland. My only hesitation was that I might not die. Being practical, I pulled over to assess how steep the cliff was. Maybe in that moment I scared myself. Maybe I couldn't do it. I hated to imagine what would happen if it was a situation where I drove my car off the road and over the wrong cliff, only to paralyze or disfigure myself. That would be a much worse nightmare for my children than losing me for good. Clearly, I would have to find higher, steeper cliff, maybe outside of LA, on my way to Big Sur, and that became the revised plan. But before following through, the universe intervened in our living room, no less. It was there that I had a conversation, took place that got my attention. Moses, age 17, and his brother Matteo, 15, are 2 of Jaden's very good friends that have been like surrogate sons to me. Out of the blue, Jaden summoned me from the kitchen into the living room because he wanted me to hear the story Moses and Matteo were sharing about their father. They started to tell me about a trip their father, Caesar, had taken to Peru. They were really excited to share news of Caesar's experience with me, knowing that I'm a spiritual seeker like their dad. Matteo and Moses proceeded to explain that the expedition Caesar had made to Peru for 11 days was to experience a ayahuasca. I don't know if I'm saying that word right. Spell it Ayahuasca. Apple Yankee Apple, Hotel Uniform Apple, Sierra Charlie Apple. As I continued to listen, I became both hopeful and curious. Caesar happened to be in town, and I was eager to hear about his story firsthand. So we planned to meet at my house. He soon gave me a full graphic description of a life-changing experience. He explained that ayahuasca is a drink made from a plant that comes from the Amazon. His journey sounded daunting as he told me about it. Caesar, who is Colombian, speaks with a heavy musical accent. He described how ayahuasca was a deep psychological healer for him in ways he had thought were impossible. He said it removed energy that masqueraded as physical ailments. I had known for a while, and I had never seen his eyes as clear, as bright as they were at this meeting. He was evidence that Aya isn't some newfangled recreational drug trip. Actually, it isn't a drug at all. It is medicine and has been for centuries. The light in his eyes inspired me, his presence so glowing that I wanted whatever he had found. As soon as I started asking around, I was surprised by how quickly the universe opened a door for me to meet Mother Aya. A therapist friend of mine said, "Oh yeah, I've done it several times. I couldn't believe it. This is available right here in California. I don't have to go to Peru. She explained that a medicine woman she had worked with lived 15 minutes away, and she could arrange a journey for me as soon as I was ready. I couldn't arrange my ceremony fast enough. At this point, my level of desperation was so all-consuming, all I could think was, what do I have to lose? If it killed me, great, mission accomplished. If not, thank God. Yet here I am, 1 month later, just after New Year's Eve, coincidentally, the 14th anniversary of my marriage to Will, sitting in my car at the top of this hill in OJ, debating whether I should drive down this driveway or not. A memory surfaced. It was a hot, muggy, multi-bar summer day on a weekend outing at Beaver Dam Park, where the rock quarry's cliff supported a platform that could be used as a high dive into the freezing cold water below. At age 7, I had daringly chosen to climb to the highest platform along with teens and adults. A sign was posted with the prominent warning, "Jump at your own risk." When I looked over the edge, I saw the risk I had chosen to take. I stood there, frozen, for hours. I watched people jump off that wooden platform over and over. It started to become a thing that there was a little girl too afraid to jump. Everyone who climbed up tried to give me encouragement. "It's not bad at all. It's easy. You can do it," as folks went flying off toward the cold water and played for summertime bliss. Many would yell back to me once they resurfaced, "See, it's fun. Go ahead and jump." I stood there in limbo for so long that the point came when my mother yelled up at me, "Enough. You have to jump, Jada. Come on." Finally, I walked to the edge and jumped. Though I hit the water hard and it stung, I felt proud of myself that I had done it, and the sting was worth the accomplishment. I had conquered fear. I swam to shore, and it was a great day. With that memory, I mustered the courage to get out of the car after grabbing the apples, oranges, and flowers I have brought as an offering to Mother Earth and Mother Aya, and to any other divine energies out there willing to look over me tonight. I'm on my hands and knees at the top of the driveway, praying, "Please show me the truth I need to see, but please be gentle. Please show me something wrong with me, and show me how to heal it, and give me the courage to do so." After getting back in the car, I take a deep breath and proceed slowly down the driveway, remembering Caesar's words, "Once you go in, you can't change your mind." No matter how hard it might get, the only way out is the way through. Before I can tell you what transpired over the next 4 nights and about the even more perilous but magnificent adventure that was to begin there, I must go back to the beginning. One of the biggest lessons I have learned, which is the main reason I wrote this book, is how important it is to share our journeys to self-worth. Returning to the scene of the deepest betrayals of our heart, buried in our origin story, is a harrowing process. It is like crawling our stomach through a jungle of thorns and roses. A lot of stories await us. In the words of Clarissa Pinkola Estes, whose Women Who Run with the Wolves has been a Bible to me since I was 19 years old, I am a well-written upon woman. Most of us are, many of us, as women, to one degree or another, don't recognize the insidious ways we are made to feel unworthy. My belief is that every woman is worthy, a walking treasure, and deserves to live her life as the heroine of her own story. A woman has a right to her adventures, even if it means courting her shadows as guides to her brightest light, and she has a right to her pitfalls as well as her triumphs, and to the wisdom gained that leads to her self-actualization. When we as women have the courage to find keys to the treasure chest of ourselves, we find divine freedom, and with this, our lives are deliberately and unapologetically crafted by our own hands. My hope is that you will be encouraged and strengthened by the journey I'm about to share with you. The archetype heroine's journey is less of a linear quest to go off and slay dragons and save damsels, as we know so well from the hero's journey paradigm, but more of a spiral out of chaos into order, saving the damsel within ourselves, where each woman can learn how to be her own savior, and any man or woman that loves her can learn how to support her in that. This, then, is a book about a woman's quest to find the power of unstoppable, indestructible love for herself, the key to her true empowerment and the acceptance of the journey that delivered her there. So that's good. And then it starts with part 1, childhood, the orphan. So I'm going to read that, and I'll give you my summary on chapter 1 once I read it. But this is Worthy by Jada Pinkett. I'm loving it so far. Thank you so much for liking. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you for turning on that notification bell. I love you. I appreciate you. I thank God for you. All is well. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And may my whole life prove that God is good.